Liberals, Democrats, they think that justice, like due process, is some kind of cosmic force that will right all wrongs on their own, regardless of any actions anyone takes, and that they don't have to do anything. You know, they can just sit there and wait for history to judge, and meanwhile we all die and we burn. Now, I'm going to keep this short and sweet because I know the people in my audience, all right, you're Zoomers, you like your flossing, you like your Fortnite. You know, I'm not going to, you know, I get it, okay? What kind of politics do you want? You want Ben Shapiro TikTok React debunks. I know that's what you want. I see what my videos get views for. Thank you, thank you. However, this is important. So as you know, Clarence Thomas is a conservative Supreme Court justice. He's also known as, I guess, broadly in the left-leaning spaces of America, bad. I don't like him. You shouldn't like him. He's bad. You can look up his record on the Supreme Court. Have fun with it. You can look it up. Learn all you like. Not what I'm here to focus on. Okay, so as I imagine most of you know, in the recent past, there was a Supreme Court vote to rule on whether or not the Trump administration could block efforts to essentially uncover a bunch of documentation that was requested to be seen pertaining to January 6th. Essentially, January 6th was a thing that happened, and then the Trump admin was like, nah, we don't need to look into that. Nope, don't look into that. Don't look. We don't look good there. Don't do it. And the Supreme Court, in an 8-1 decision, told the Trump administration, no, we're letting those documents be revealed. 8-1. Who do you think the one was? Who do you think the one Supreme Court justice was? The one who said, no, let's allow the Trump administration to block the exposure of these records. Was it Mr. Thomas? It was, as a matter of fact, the Honorable Mr. Thomas. So, here's the problem, okay? Clarence Thomas is part of a two-person team, and he is the less crazy of that duo. His wife, Ginny Thomas, Ginny, whatever. Now, I know we don't believe in phrenology here on the left. However, can you interpret what she believes? Can you figure it out? Can you guess? She's a QAnoner. She's a QAnoner. You can look it all up if you want. Let me just keep it simple. We got a lot to talk about. In March 2022, texts between Thomas, that would be Ginny Thomas, not Clarence Thomas here. Women have last names too. Thank you, chat. Feminist moment. And White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows from 2020 were handed to the Select Committee on the January 6 attack. The texts show her repeatedly urging Meadows to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and repeating conspiracy theories about ballot fraud. She urged that conspiracy theorist attorney Sidney Powell, remember her? Remember Sidney Powell? You remember? The Kraken lady? The one who, after she was held to task for all the lies she told, said she was joking the entire time? Be retained by the Trump campaign efforts to overturn the 2020 election. It was disclosed the U.S. House Select Committee on the January 6 attack was considering whether to call her as a witness in its investigation. In the quoted text, this is real, Ginny Thomas, wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, described an unknown number of American citizens she hoped would be, quote, living in barges off Gitmo, end quote. So this isn't just like regular Republican crazy. This is like full on like 4chan like QAnon posting, like actual the storm is coming, day of the rope deer stuff. I mean, full on like Joe Biden is going to be in Guantanamo, Trump will be emperor, he'll reign 1,000 years. I mean, full on. Is she a fascist? Well, I know a fascist, Donald Trump, and he actually, and this is not a joke, called her a wacko, but refrained from going in on it because he wanted to stay with good terms in Clarence Thomas. That is not a joke. Ginny Thomas loves Trump. Have you ever seen Trump turn away praise before? Really, think about Trump. This is the guy who could barely denounce the Proud Boys. This is the guy that Trump was told about QAnon, and said, I heard they like me and I like that. This guy said Ginny Thomas was a wacko. She is beyond. She is past there. I mean, when Donald Trump, yeah, parasocial relationship. Anyway, the story of this meeting is actually incredibly funny. Apparently, they had a dinner. Donald Trump, Clarence Thomas, and Ginny Thomas. They had a dinner together. Where it was incredibly uncomfortable. Now, I could be misremembering, but apparently they said it was difficult to talk because Ginny Thomas's political compatriots, because she's very active politically, she has like very far right committees that she's a part of, were praying in the room, and they were praying so loud it was hard for the rest of them to talk, and the whole thing was just really awkward and uncomfortable, you know? I could be I'm pretty sure that's the case. I read that somewhere else. Whatever the case may be, she's very much the type. She was actually in a cult in her college years in law school, and then she got into like another cult. Basically, she's just a very mentally weak person who falls into conspiracy theories and cults like that. I mean, like this, like very, 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 So, I know what you're thinking. Well, okay, what does it mean? Ginny Thomas, crazy. Very crazy. Extremely, I mean, genuinely concerning how crazy she is. What's the issue? Well, the issue is, of course, that Clarence Thomas, a Supreme Court justice, ruled on a case essentially to hide the evidence that his wife had texted Mark Meadows in an effort to support an insurrection in the United States. Now, are you familiar with the term conflict of interest? Is that a term you're familiar with? Now, in terms of severity of conflict of interests, okay? A Supreme Court justice ruling to keep his wife's improprieties quiet without disclosing the conflict of interest is as much a conflict of interest as it is imaginable for there to be a conflict of interest. I mean, this is the most conflict of interest. This interest is highly conflicted. Absolutely insane. This is, and I speak without a hint of exaggeration, one of the most significant pieces of Supreme Court judicial misconduct and corruption present in the past century. Democrats should be screaming about this from the rooftops every minute of every day. And what are they doing? Nothing. Democrats are just being quiet about it. They're not talking about it. Biden, I believe, has barely breathed a word on the issue. The head of the DNC said that Chief Justice Roberts should do something about it, as though like Roberts is Clarence Thomas's dad. Like, as though he can somehow do it, like as though one justice can do something to another, like as though that's a thing that Roberts can do, like he has any power there, I feel like Democrats are desperate to avoid responsibility for doing anything, calling out anything, anywhere. Pelosi and Biden, this is more corruption. Legitimately, this on its own is more significant corruption than almost anything demonstrated through the entirety of the Trump administration. Democrats should be screaming about this. Hey, a wife of a Supreme Court justice was conspiring to overthrow the president of the United States, and the sitting Supreme Court justice voted to cover it up without disclosing. That's it. That's not an exaggeration. That is a factual piece of information right there, empirically backed up and demonstrated by the evidence we have at hand. It is insane. And Democrats won't do anything. This is why we're going to die. I hope you all know this. You think you're going to die of old age? No. You're going to die from Democrat abstemiousness, okay? Because there is nothing that Democrats love more than letting Republicans get away with it, okay? It's this high-minded liberal sensibility of like justice will take care of itself, Liberals, Democrats, they think that justice, like due process, is some kind of cosmic force that will right all wrongs on their own, regardless of any actions anyone takes, and that they don't have to do anything. They can just sit there and wait for history to judge. And meanwhile, we all die and we burn. Of course, justice is something that takes active effort, oftentimes a lot of active effort, and violence in history, if you look, to bring about, and they're just letting it sail on by. We can never beat Republicans. And by the way, if I recall correctly, is Trump not currently polling ahead of Biden right now in 2022? Is Trump not currently polling ahead of Biden? Yeah. I wonder why. I wonder why. Do you think it matters to the American public how good the country is under one president or another? No, it doesn't. Don't be stupid. What difference does that make? Voters care about what voters are told to care about. And what do voters get when Biden's in office? Things are going to be fine. The system will work itself out. As Americans, we come together. Oh, great. Trump, when he's in office, it's a nonstop cavalcade of propagandistic talking points about how the world is coming to an end, but only he, is capable of forestalling it. He gets people energized. He gives people purpose. He gets people focused on the things that he needs them to be focused on to win the next election. The fact that 2020 was even close between Biden and Trump is evidence that reality just does not matter. And here's the thing, folks. Trump had to lie to sell these talking points. Biden would just have to tell the truth. I'm not asking for us to reach their level. We don't need to sink to their level. We don't need to lie. They are corrupt. He could just explain in aggressive terms what has happened, and he would be in every imaginable sense correct to do so. But we get this. We get nothing. Genuinely, like nothing. I mean, what am I to do here, right? I've told you, it's Democrats, it's abstemiousness, okay? It's malicious incompetence. The Republicans can and will do whatever they want. You think Democrats would lift a finger if the January 6th insurrection had succeeded? Really, I want to ask you how faithful you are, like that would happen, like in your mind. Like, let's say a bunch of Republicans, Democrats, whatever, politicians got killed. They took the Capitol building. Like, you say Republicans managed to hold a seat of power, they declare themselves the interim, whatever. Do you think Democrats would really push back on that? Or do you think they would do this, we disavow the unacceptable anti-democratic behavior from not President Donald Trump? And further, no, they would actually still call him president, because on January 6th, he would have still been president. I bet they would still call him president up until the 20th. So like on January 7th, when like the shadow cabinet Democrats are like explaining how like Trump is bad and mean, they would still call him president after he does the coup. That'd be funny. It'd be horrible, but it would be funny. And they would totally do it because they love proceduralism. They love rule of law. They love following the rules and letting other people not follow rules. They wouldn't do shit about it. The Democrats exist to be a wet sponge next to the overwhelming reactionary and corporate interests posed by the Republican Party. They're there to be a very weak obstacle. They're there to give you the impression that putting your faith in them as a weak obstacle is an effective solution to the existence of those corporate and reactionary interests. Genuinely disgusting. I hate them. I hate Clarence Thomas. I wish him a happy stay in the hospital. I wish he had stayed there longer, or not too long, I wish they'd vacated the bed and he hadn't returned to his seat. I don't care. I hate these people. They're killing our country. They're tearing this fucking country apart. It's such obvious, blatant fucking corruption, and nobody on the left is talking about it. You have journalists talking about it. You have pundits talking about it. The news is talking about it, but not the fucking DNC, not except for tweeting at Justice Roberts like he's Thomas's dad. Are there actual corporate interests that make them complacent like that, or are they just this weak because of ideology? I think that in terms of serving corporate interests, I should say, I think the nature of this conflict and of Democrat abstemiousness is not one born in corporate interests. I think it has to do with an ideological failing on the part of liberalism. This, anemic belief that history will write itself, that we're at the end of history, basically, so like no bad things can ever really happen again anymore. It's this like American exceptionalism, the idea like, well, it could never happen here. Yes, it fucking could. And in fact, it has before, and it will continue to happen. It takes extremely aggressive, non-stop vigilance to keep and maintain a democracy. You can't just do this, just let strongmen waltz in, do whatever they want and go like, oh, history will prove them wrong. No, it won't. Or I guess I should say, maybe it will. I don't care. I don't care if 500 years from now a historian will write down, and what the Republicans did was illegal. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I don't give a fuck what the historians say about this. I care what I get to live through. Can you imagine that in any other context? Rome is falling. Mongolia sweeps the world. The Ottoman Empire. People are like, well, at least in 1,000 years, people will say that what they did here was wrong. Like what? No, raise an army. Jesus. That's not what Jesus did, though. Well, history did vindicate Jesus, and also he came back to life. So, a bit of a special case there. We don't all have that power. This comic sums up what you just ranted about in 2 picks. Oh yeah, I love Happy Roadkill. One of my favorite comic artists. Very punchy. Like for real though, you know. It should be you should note I do not think that Democrat abstemiousness is necessarily a deliberate thing most of the time. I do genuinely think it's just like the liberal mindset, you know what I mean? Because like if you talk to like regular like liberals, I don't know, like just some 40 something like guy who's a liberal and who like really loved Obama and Hillary or whatever, like if you talk to them, like it's pretty immediate recognizing the ideological systems that would prevent them from taking a really strong stance against something like, a fascist takeover. A kind of ideological complacency. What it is really is arrogance. This is one of the ways in which, this is one of the reasons fascists keep gaining hold in liberal societies. Liberals are complacent. They're arrogant. They think that their system, their rule of law is this inherent, inviolate, like, just natural end state, the final development of social structures. And fascists recognize, and they're fully correct in this sense, that there is no such end state. There are only goals and the power you use to achieve them. Now, I don't like their goals, but I do like power, when it's turned towards good end goals. One might hope. Same for lefties, though. The libs are just currently one. No, I don't think so. Lefties are, at least historically in concept, lefties are a lot more power hungry than liberals are. I turn my thoughts back towards the attempted revolution in Germany, like Rosa Luxemburg, blah blah blah. We all know. I really liked Luxemburg. I liked her a lot. I think she was a very smart woman who was kind of fucked over by the poor planning of her compatriots. People always give Social Democrats shit for killing Rosa Luxemburg, but don't forget, the tankies are the ones who got her killed. It was the Stalin-aligned members of her political party that forced revolutionary action when she didn't want them to and when there was basically no chance of them succeeding. And then they got mad the Social Democrats didn't join them in the revolution. Why would you expect Social Democrats to join you in a revolution? They're Social Democrats. They're not socialists. Like they get mad about that, but like, yeah, like obviously, like Stalin wasn't in power then. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say like Stalinist. The prototypical, like what would later become like the MLs. No, I shouldn't say Stalin. You're right. I apologize. But there was a tendency in many of her compatriots. I think it was this like perceived inevitability of like a communist takeover that along with a couple other like illiberal ideas. Leninist? No, because I don't think they were Leninist. It's like, yeah, it's like what happened with the Spanish Civil War. Like, you know how, okay, like let's be real, okay? It's not like the Bolsheviks were good. The moment Lenin won the revolution, he started disbanding all the workers' councils. Like pretty much the nanosecond Lenin took power, he immediately started like destroying the actual like underlying, and Trotsky. Don't get me started on Trotsky. People think like, oh, Trotsky's better than Stalin. No, he wasn't. Read the justifications for what Trotsky wrote under Lenin before he got chased out. Trotsky was a fucking monster. He was an incredible authoritarian. Yeah. Concentration camps broke apart like worker democracy. Like, look, I am at no point in the history of the Soviet Union am I a fan of the Soviet Union. It started bad and got worse, but some of its worst tendencies were present in like the German revolutionaries, and I think Rosa Luxemburg was by far the most sensible voice of that group. Lenin planned that shit even before they finally got control. My guys, Lenin had Trotsky oversaw the murder of the anarchists they fought with to overthrow the Tsar before the revolution had even finished. What was that war council where they literally just shot anarchist generals in the back of the head? Like, hey, the revolution's almost won. Let's talk about how we're going to form our totally communist post-Tsarist government. And they didn't make it out of there. Yeah. The constant, yeah. The anarchists did counter-revolution, didn't they? No, the anarchists did the actual revolution. They didn't do a counter-revolution. The nanosecond it became clear what Lenin wanted, the anarchists were like, oh, wait, shit. This wasn't a communist revolution. This is just a new czar, you know? The Kronstadt still disputed. Nah, the evidence that that there was, you know, the anarchists were murdered off, you know, was is pretty undisputed. I'm pretty sure. The Bolsheviks weren't in the best position, though. Oh God, we're not defending the Bolsheviks today, are we? Nah. Listen, okay, Russian history is its own fucking can of worms. We can do a research stream sometime in the future, but I've already done one on this before, and every time I read further into it, it was like, oh my God, they were so much worse, you know? Legitimately, like, like you look, it's such a lack of willingness to be critical on stuff like this. Not from you guys, I mean, just from the broader left, but like, it's not good. Does that make anarchists the only productive political group? What's a productive political group? Listen, okay, the only productive political group is a fascist because they don't care about positive outcomes, so it's really easy for them to be productive, okay? Listen, okay, a fascist can stand triumphant over the ruins of Berlin and go like, yep, we sure did something. They don't care, whatever. They're like idiots, just like they're having fun, you know? Unfortunately, constructing something useful is a lot more difficult. We did a thing, you know? God. Heard of the Kronstadt Rebellion? Do you want to go over it on stream? The Kronstadt Rebellion was a 1921 insurrection of Soviet sailors, soldiers, and civilians against the Bolshevik government on the Russian SFSR port island of Kronstadt, located on Jutland Island, the Gulf of Finland, defended the former capital city as the base of the Baltic Fleet, rose in opposition to the Soviet government they helped to consolidate. Led by Stepan Petrichenko, it was the... I just clicked on the wrong link. It was the last major revolt against the Bolshevik regime on Russian territory during the Russian Civil War. Disappointed in the direction of the Bolshevik government, the rebels that had been praised earlier as adornment and pride of the revolution by Trotsky himself demanded a series of reforms, reduction in Bolshevik power, newly elected Soviet councils to include socialist and anarchist groups, economic freedom for peasants and workers, dissolution of the bureaucratic government organs created during the Civil War, and the restoration of civil rights for the working class. Damn, what villains! Reduction in state power, include socialist and anarchist groups and Soviet councils, dissolute bureaucratic governmental organs created during the Civil War, and restore civil rights for working people. You know, what counter-revolutionary... Show us the screen, lol? Yeah, sure. Supporters saw the rebels as revolutionary martyrs, while authorities saw the rebels as agents of the Entente and counter-revolution. They always say this. Anytime... Listen, okay, Stalin could literally be, like, mid-a kid, and if somebody, like, ran in to stop him, like, he would be arrested as a counter-revolutionary. They'll defend, like, literally anything as like, counter-revolutionary behavior. The Bolshevik response to great controversy, dissolution of several supporters of the Bolshevik regime, such as Emma Goldman. While the revolt was suppressed and rebels' political demands were not met, it served to accelerate the implementation of the new economic policy, which replaced war communism. By the way, war communism is a euphemism, and what it actually means is authoritarianism. There's no communism in war. It's literally just it's just regular authoritarianism. It's just regular dictatorship, you know. War communism included the following policies: nationalization, state control of foreign trade, strict discipline for workers with strikes forbidden, obligatory labor duty by non-working classes, requisition of agricultural surplus, rationing of food and most commodities, that's to be expected, private enterprise ban, military-style control of the railways. Essentially, it just means martial law, no worker rights, work for the state. Like, it's all forced labor stuff. Yeah, there's no communism in here. The closest we get to communism is that the government has its boot on you instead of the corporations, but, you know, whatever. Would Russia have been better with Alexander Kerensky? Listen, Russia would have been better if we had simply made Russia the 51st United State. What would it have been back then? Like the 46th? I don't know, something. The 48th? Okay, that's what we need. It should have just become the largest United State. The 49th? Yeah, it could have been next to Alaska. We could have gotten Alaska and Russia in one fell swoop. It's a lot of people. 50,000 soldiers against 15,000 rebels? Yeah, it's a lot of... Emma Goldman denounced the USSR after the Kronstadt Rebellion. Yeah, why wouldn't she? You know, it's, but she's an anarchist, so she's not a real socialist, you know. Is Kronstadt Rebellion one of the, I was hoping it'd be one of the headers here. All right. You ever talk about how Russia tried to find Wikipedia for inaccuracies about the special operation? Yeah, I saw that. Good luck getting any money out of Wikipedia for that. Yeah, but like Wikipedia is just recording what Russia does in Ukraine, and Russia's like, you can't do that, and try to find them for it. God.